Dynasty.
All right, welcome back. Another episode of Backyard Dynasty. We are here with the boys here. You got Fleet.
Got Fancy Sons.
Yeah, Scanny.
And we're going to focus on this episode. We're going to start off with a little bit of fantasy disappointments so far this year. Last episode, if you tuned in, we talked a little bit about our fantasy standouts. And now this one, we're going to focus on the lowlights this year. We're going to go by position, and we'll just kind of break it down from there and talk about a couple other things, fantasy setup, different things like that. So let's get right into it. I'll start us off at the quarterback position. Fleet is going to go right into it. Dak Prescott, quarterback letdown. He's just been absolutely abysmal this year. I believe he only has one game this year above 20 points, and the rest, I think he has multiple single-digit games in standard scoring. It's just been a really tough go for him this year. And not only that, but I also feel like, by the way, he's had 2 games in single digits and 1 game over 20, and that was against the New York Jets in week 2. And this last week against the Niners, I think we all know what happened, that he got absolutely exposed. As he does per usual every time he plays the Niners, though. Is that fair to say?
Every time.
Yeah, he plays horrible against the Niners every single time. But the thing with Dak is that I feel like he's in a very strange position where he's not elite, but he started off hot and had promise. So, the Cowboys fans, got behind him. He had a couple good years, right, where it was he was good fantasy quarterback, and then in real life he was a good quarterback. I think he maybe has he won a playoff game?
He's won a wild card game,
yeah.
I think.
The point I'm trying to make is
that
he hasn't been successful in the postseason. And then now it's he's at this point of he's in this gray area of irrelevance where he's not elite, but he's also not really anything above average either. He's actually declining, it seems like. And so now going into the season, you had Cooper Rush, who played better than him last year, basically. And you got Trey Lance, who they just traded for, who's also a hot prospect that could also be somebody who grows into a starting quarterback role for them.
Right.
And now you got Cowboys fans who are basically just he's not doing it anymore. Get him out of here. So now he's going into every week I better perform. I got to make a name for myself now still. And he's just been bad. And it doesn't help that he's not really getting a lot of help from his receivers. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is not being the wide receiver one that he's supposed to be. And the scheme is he doesn't blow you away anymore. He doesn't make any throws that are that was impressive. He just hasn't put in any of those performances that blow you away, and he's been a disappointment so far.
And to your point, the play calling in Dallas has been very bland. Very bland. Mike McCarthy has lost his touch when it comes to calling plays. He hasn't play called since he was coaching in Green Bay.
Yeah. McCarthy and McDaniels, the worst offensive minds right now.
Dude, Dak has just turned into Jimmy G. Honestly, he really is morphed into a Jimmy G.
Yeah.
He doesn't really provide a lot for the team. He's not really adding a sense. They score so much on defense.
Yeah.
Too. If you take some of that defensive scoring away, what are they 3-2 right now?
Yeah. Have you heard their point differential in the fourth quarter?
No.
They have not. I don't believe they've had a passing play in the fourth quarter of almost every game they've had this season, except the Niners, because they've had a lead of at least 7 to 14 points. Their point differential is at least 14 points, and going into the fourth quarter. So that speaks a testament within itself. So
and by the way, point differential on the year, Cowboys are at 51 plus 51, and they won 40-0 week 1.
Yeah.
That tells you everything you need to know. They've been plus 11 in the past 4 weeks outside of that.
What are the Niners at? They got to be plus.
Niners are at the top of the league. They're plus 99.
Okay.
And then right below that is the Bills at 79.
And then Dolphins.
Chiefs.
They lost by 28 actually. So that's
yeah. So they're actually not as high as you think. They're at 46.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
But so that's what I got for quarterback. What you got?
For my pick at quarterback disappointments this season, I will say it is Lamar Jackson. He's come out fairly okay. I won't say he's flat.
No, keep going. I agree with you.
He's had serviceable games. Out of the 5 games he's played this season, he scored at least, I want to say, because I'm looking at our scoring scale and it's different. So in standard scoring, yeah, so if anything, he's scored at least 25 fantasy points in 3 of his 5 games. But if you look at the stat line, it's good for fantasy numbers. Well, that's what the point is. But for what he was projected to do this year, and also if you take it into the context of actual football, he hasn't been playing that well. He has had 2 games this season where he's had 2 turnovers. Week 1 against Houston, he had an interception and a fumble. And then in week 5 against Pittsburgh, he also had an interception and a fumble. And with the arsenal of weapons that he was projected to have, OBJ, Zay Flowers, who has been proving to be promising, Mark Andrews coming in, and of course they had the hit to their backfield, so they basically can't run the ball. J.K. Dobbins tore his Achilles, out for the year. But that MVP Lamar, we were expecting to see that or something exceedingly better than that. So it's just like he's currently quarterback 13 on the season, and for the high hopes and kind of the high hopes that we had for him, he should at least be a top 10 quarterback with the weapons that he has. So I don't know, man. Just keep playing to earn that money that they gave you, because they gave him a lot. And I want to see him succeed, but his numbers are just kind of anticlimactic.
I really expected a breakout season from him, especially after the whole contract holdout and the way he was representing himself. And I thought he'd have a fire in himself to be like, this is why I deserve that money. And I feel like I haven't really seen much from him. I mean, but you know what the thing about Lamar is? This is what he does. He has like 2 weeks out of the whole year, he'll go for like 40 plus points. And then the rest, you don't know if you're going to get 12 or you don't know if you're going to get 27. He's just like a very strange, like gray area fantasy quarterback where he's not always going to be thrown for 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns, but he's going to probably run for about 60 yards and maybe a touchdown or 2. And then you'll get maybe another 200 yards, maybe a pick or so, and then maybe another passing touchdown. Right. So he gets his points in a very strange way that not many quarterbacks do. So from a fantasy standpoint, I have him. And he is one of the most frustrating quarterbacks to have on your roster, because even when he has a good game, like let's say he gets you 25 or 30 points, you're like, I feel like he didn't even really go off, right? Because you watch the game and you're like, it's just not what a prototypical quarterback does. Right. It just feels very like he gets his points in a strange way. And it just kind of like slowly trickles up. And then if he throws a touchdown, you're like, oh, okay, I'll take that little boost. But he's just very strange in fantasy where he'll always find a way to be like top 10, top 7. But it's very like sporadic and like inconsistent within being good, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, the way you describe that is actually the same exact way that I feel about Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
Because
especially the last few years.
Yeah. Like he's primed and ready to have to be in a good situation, have a good season, but he only does enough to be relevant and to be a top 20 back. He'll be a top 20, but it's like, what is that going to get you? He'll get you like through the 5 games, he's had like maybe 10 points. And 10 points are the most. 10 to 12 points is what he's mostly scored with no touchdowns, just usage. So yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that.
What you got, Scanny?
I'm going to go with a guy who is not, you didn't draft this player to be.
Here's a guy.
You didn't draft this guy you didn't draft him to win your league. This is somebody that was like a really viable streaming option last year who was honestly a lot better than we thought with rushing upside. But this year, him and his team have been abysmal, and that's Daniel Jones. I know a lot of people counted on Daniel Jones last year, and he was a really like solid guy. You could start him last year. But so far this season in standard scoring, he's got 5 points, 36, which is, great game, but 5, 36, 5, 11, and 8.
Yeah, that's
single digits.
Horrible.
And it's not looking good for him coming up because 3 of the next 5 games are at Buffalo, playing against the Jets, and at Dallas. So you got 3 of the top 5 defenses coming at you, and you've been struggling against teams like Seattle and Arizona. So,
yeah. And the best part, he has a 4-year 150 or 140.
Dude, shout out to him because and him and his agent.
He secured the bag.
Oh, he secured the bag. And I think everyone that watched last year, I mean, he was getting contributions from rushing. Mm-hmm. Like he was rushing the ball to the point where it was really inflating his stats and performances.
Yeah.
Where we haven't seen that. First of all, the offensive line is probably the worst in the league. Bad. It's so bad. So bad. If you're playing, if any defense is out there, the free agency that's playing against the Giants, pick them up and play them. Yeah. They're going to get at least 2 to 3 sacks. He literally has like a second and a half to throw the ball.
They don't even have their starting left tackle.
It's insane how bad they are.
Yeah.
And to the point where the linemen aren't even blocking anyone. Like they'll snap it and you'll see them just like guard air. And you're like free rushers off the edge through the middle, and it's bad all around, man. The Giants are just
it's a real skeleton crew.
They fell, man. They won that playoff game. They peaked. That was it. I don't see them getting
He
much
said,
better than that. It was bad, man. It's bad. Okay, I got one for you. This might sound strange, but I think just because we hold him to such a high standard, I'm going to say Patrick Mahomes has been a little bit of a disappointment.
I was gonna say that. Yep.
So for me, again, like I said, he's the best quarterback in the game, in my opinion, still, and it's very clear. But from a fantasy standpoint, I think he's just been so much of a letdown, and I don't think it's so much his fault, but I think it's the fact that his franchise and his team have elected to not continue to invest in wide receiving options that can fit to what he does on a big play standpoint. Right now, he's only got Kelsey. If you watch the games, it's like he doesn't throw to anyone else. I think he throws to Rashee Rice like twice a game. And then everything else is to Kelsey, or it's a check down or a pass to Pacheco or Clyde. Yeah. It's insane. Valdez-Scantling is basically irrelevant this year, which is insane to think about because he was actually a downfield threat for him last year. They lost Juju. They don't have anyone that's like in that medium range, like short to medium route that they can throw to. They got like Christian Watson. I don't even know Noah Gray. I mean, who else is this guy throwing to? It's insane to me.
You said Christian Watson?
He's
not Christian Watson, Justin Watson. He just got hurt yesterday. Excuse me.
I heard that too. I'm like,
yeah, Justin Watson.
Sky Moore. That's
Sky Moore. You know what I mean? So it's and the
Kadarius.
fact that they're still 5-1 and Kadarius is, I mean, if you want to mention him, you can. But you know, he's been that bad. Yeah, he's been that bad.
He's the poorest man's Tyreek. The poorest man.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I wouldn't even put him in the same sentence. But my point is that Mahomes, I mean, he's still the number 6 quarterback. So don't get me wrong, he's still averaging 24 points in standard leagues. But for Mahomes' standard, that might be one of his worst seasons if he finishes 6th in probably the last 3-4 years. And if you drafted him high in a redraft league, he's underperforming for what you drafted him for. You know what I mean? Like, you got Josh Allen, who's averaging 28 points a game. Cousins is at 26. Same thing with Tua. Basically, I mean, they're outperforming Mahomes, and they definitely, 2 of those 3 went way later than Mahomes did in all these redraft leagues. Right. So, in a way, from the elite standpoint, Mahomes has been a little bit of a disappointment for me so far.
You know, the simple fact that Russell Wilson is ranked higher than Lamar Jackson, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, are we on to running backs?
Yeah, let's go to running backs.
Okay.
I'm going to lay off 2 of these ones that I have on my list just because we already mentioned one in the last episode, and I know we'll bring them up again probably. And then the other one I know is a Scanny special, so I'm leaving that low-hanging fruit for you.
You can have it. I'm not going to take him.
Well, let's just talk about it then. Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yep.
Yep. Everyone went into this year thinking Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be like what Bijan was, basically. At least a lesser version of what Bijan is, and he is a absolute fraction of what Bijan is.
He's like an afterthought for Dan Campbell.
He is. And I think what was crazy going into this year is that nobody thought that the Lions were actually going to use Montgomery the way that they were using Montgomery. And then all of a sudden now he's the bell cow, 3 down back, and then you bring him in for like just utility type stuff, whether it's pass catching, they actually make him run routes, or if he's just catching screens and stuff like that. He's basically just a special usage player now. And it'll probably grow in the future. I don't see Montgomery being there long term. And he'll probably end up being fantasy relevant. But right now, I mean, unless you had that much stock on him and you took him very high, you can drop him to the waivers, man, honestly. I mean, he's truly not doing anything to the point where he's not even worth roster consideration right now. Right. And it's one of those things where that's the risk you take with rookies coming in. Right? There's always that one person in the league, and for us, it's Boss Man. Always will take a rookie and a young player coming in every single year in the draft. And that's just that's what you run the risk of if you decide to put some stock into that, because they can just be misused like he is right now and get stuck behind a running back like Montgomery who carries the load. Now he's irrelevant. So tough season for him. I don't think it's so much that he's not good. It's just the way he's being utilized. Yeah. So that's definitely one that fantasy managers definitely resonate with. But this is the one I want to talk about. Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh, yeah, that was gonna. Yep.
It's not even really him, honestly. It's the offense.
Yeah, well, the Patriots are bad in general. Which, by the way, I'm loving it. Am I the only one enjoying the Patriots being horrible?
No, I've seen some stuff on social media. It's just like, oh, it's a good time. It's a good day when What
I
a
was
time to
just
be
like-
alive when the Raiders are a poverty, or the Patriots are a poverty
Yeah.
franchise.
They're so bad.
It just seemed like the Patriots represented everything of the NFL, what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now they're being exposed for being super outdated in their systems, the way that they coach. Like you even see the disciples of like the Patriots, like McDaniels and other people like that. And I know I keep roasting McDaniels, but I want him out. But
Matt Patricia
Yeah.
too. When he was in
exactly.
Detroit,
But
it
you
was
see
awful.
these guys and they bring these types of Patriots type of principles, and you see how these teams are performing. It's like
Yeah.
it's outdated now, man. Like
Non-mobile quarterback, no motion.
yeah,
like,
exactly.
going
Very
very
just
straight,
textbook.
yeah.
This is what the statistics say. If we just get this many yards per play, then we'll keep going.
halfback dive don't work anymore.
Yeah,
It
it's
does.
Bill
Just run.
O'Brien for you.
Yeah. No, it's insane. So
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson, a running back that was drafted really high going into the year because people thought he was going to be able to carry the load and actually get a lot of touches and things like that. And now he's walked into an offense that's absolutely horrid with Mac Jones.
3
They can't
points in
even
2
move.
weeks.
They can't even move the ball. And so Ramondre has just been a letdown. And like you said, it's very similar to Gibbs. It's not so much that he's bad. It's just the usage,
Yeah.
the situation he's found himself in, and just the fantasy outlook that he now has for the rest of the year. It's just been horrible, and he's been a huge disappointment. I know a lot of people that have drafted him high. I mean, who has him in our league? Is it Gucci's or is it
Gucci's.
Gritty Gang?
Gucci's has him.
Typical Gucci
Yeah.
pick, by the way. But oh my goodness, Ramondre, dude, he drafted him pretty high. Pretty high.
I wanna say
I'm gonna find it right
He went
now.
like the third or fourth round on him.
Yeah, he
'Cause he went-
drafted 64th overall. He went in the 8th round in our draft. Which,
Yeah,
by the
so
way,
that's
if you,
that's
essentially
second.
the
That's
second
a
round.
second
that's
round.
the second round in our dynasty league. So that's an insane stock to put into Ramondre and get absolutely nothing. He's averaging 77 right now, and that's because he had 119 and 125 in the first 2 weeks. He's a combined 141 over the last
Damn.
3 weeks.
Gosh.
Insane.
For me, I would say the running back disappointments. There's a couple names that I want to pull up. Just because I'll get this one out of the way and I won't expand too much on it because I'm a little biased and we've covered him already. Joe Mixon has been fairly disappointing. Like we said earlier, he's getting tons of volume, but he's just not making much of it. I mean, it's a rough situation in the offense when they know you're mobile. When they know your quarterback is not mobile with Joe Burrow's calf injury, so they kind of honed in on the run. But even then, with all that opportunity, he's only seen the end zone once this season. He hasn't rushed for over 80 yards in a game, and so it's just. I hope it turns around, but yeah, get it together, Joe.
Yeah.
But the one. My actual one, I would say, is actually Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's
Good
been
one.
fairly, for what he's been, and of course the decline comes with age, but for what the type of force that he's been in fantasy, it's been a little underwhelming. I would say in only 3 of his 5 games, so it's a good percentage, he's scored at least 12 fantasy points. But I mean, for Derrick Henry, that man's massive. He's like what, 6'5", 6'6", 230,
Yep.
240 pounds.
Mhm.
He was like a top 5 running back for the last couple years, but now he's running back 14 on the year. He's had some rough sledding against the Cleveland Browns, whose defense has been really lights out this year, scoring only 2 fantasy points, and then also playing Indy, only scoring 7. And we've seen the usage start to be skewed. The snap count and the usage is getting split. We're seeing a little more love being shown to Tajay Spears on the last game when they played Indy. He had a hell of a game. He was snagging some snaps away from him, and he even got into the end zone. So, like, I think we're starting to see the decline of Derrick Henry. I don't know if he's a free agent next year, but I would not be surprised if he was not a Tennessee Titan next season.
I think this goes back to the conversation we had on the last episode as well, because Henry is a perfect example of a one-dimensional running back, right?
Yep.
And we're talking about McCaffrey and why he's at 16 million versus everybody else. That's why Henry is becoming, when he's in the game, everyone knows what you're doing. It don't matter how big and how strong you are. If you pack the box and you stack it, you're going to likely limit the amount of rushes or the amount of yards per rush that he has. And I feel like with Henry, it's like he comes in the game, it's like they're either doing play action or they're running.
Mhm.
It's the only 2 things that they're going to do out of that if he's in the game.
Yeah.
So I think that teams are really starting to catch on to that. And the fact that he's not expanding, or, I mean, it's tough for, like I said, it's tough for a 6'5", 2 whatever running back to all of a sudden become a wide receiver, right?
He's like the
But-
Calvin Johnson of running backs.
But again, my point going back to the conversation we had before, it's just like if you're one dimensional in the running back, that's why like the running back market is becoming so obsolete and not being paid. Because if you're not, capable of doing more than just rushing between the tackles, what do you bring into the table?
Right.
So we're seeing that happen in real time.
Sadly, like you, I'm gonna take one of my own players as a disappointment. And he's a top 20 player in fantasy scoring for running backs. He's actually number 20 exactly. But when Dalvin Cook left Minnesota this offseason, a lot of people, like me included, thought that it was going to be Alexander Mattison to the moon. Thought he was going to be potentially a top 15, top 10 back. And like I said, he's 20 right now, so he's not exactly out of that range. But Minnesota has made it very clear that they don't think he's capable of holding a bell cow role. They've went out and got Cam Akers. And now with JJ down, Justin Jefferson being down, injured on the IR, we hear about Kirk potentially moving. And if they don't have Justin Jefferson and Kirk leaves, that team is going to have no rushing upside because, like you're just saying, they're going to be stacking the box.
Yeah.
You got to defend Addison and KJ Osborne and then stack the box. There are going to be a lot of 3-and-outs. And even if Kirk doesn't leave, Akers' role is expanding. And without Justin Jefferson, the ball is not going to be moving downfield as much.
Yeah.
And Madison has been extremely touchdown dependent because he has scored some touchdowns. But they've been timely. They've been fourth quarter touchdowns. You take one of those away, take two of those away. We go from 20th to 32nd in points scored.
Yeah, very quickly.
So
also the thing that's just shocking to me is when he did fill in for Dalvin Cook last year, he was literally given the bell cow role and was catching beyond rushing as well. And it was like he looked great. Like he was one of the best handcuffs, if not the best handcuff to have, because Cook would always be guaranteed to miss a couple games after he got cracked or fumbled. That's the one thing about Dalvin Cook, by the way. He gets hurt after every fumble.
Yeah.
Marcos Friley right there.
He's like, I ain't let go of this for no reason. I'm hurting.
Yeah, no, for real. But going back to Madison, when he would fill in, he was one of the best running backs every time.
Right.
He would
and he
fill
has
in
been
for
more
Dalvin
efficient.
Cook.
He's been really efficient weeks 3 and week 4. Week 5 they played KC, so no tough matchup.
But I mean, going into this year, same coach, same system, everything. And it's like he just isn't doing the same stuff that he was doing before. I mean, maybe they got film, maybe he's just not being as explosive, but it was definitely crazy because I had a lot of stock in Madison. I drafted him in multiple leagues, and like you said, he's just been serviceable. He was supposed to be somebody who's top 15 type of running back, and like you said, he's top 20 right now, but you take a couple of those touchdowns away, and now you're not looking so pretty.
And since we're kind of in the ballpark to kind of bring this person into the conversation, I would also say an honorable mention for a letdown is Dalvin Cook just in general.
Yeah.
Because Dalvin Cook was a free agent. He got signed on, I believe, for like a $4 million deal with the New York Jets to kind of help ease the transition of bringing Brees in. So I remember when we had our draft weekend, our pod episode, that one, I even said, I'm like, I think Dalvin Cook is going to have a solid first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. Like he's going to be the main guy while they work Brees back in. But we've seen that isn't the case. While they have worked Brees in slowly but surely, he has been the only running back in that backfield that has shown any promise, any type of juice, really. Like I think I don't want to say Dalvin's cooked. No pun intended. Oh wow.
There you go.
I don't want to say he's washed or anything or cooked, but like, yo, it's starting to show. So, but
What's up with the Cooks, man? You got Brandon Cooks is cooked. Dalvin Cook is cooked.
James Cook ain't doing much.
Not looking too good. I mean, he's young, so he's not cooked, but looking cooked.
Yeah.
it's insane, man.
Brandon Cooks is cooked.
And and you could go down the list. I mean, we only named a handful here, but I mean, we're Miles Sanders, Rashad White. I mean,
Gucci's kept
multiple
him, dude.
names,
That's
names, man.
crazy. Miles Sanders was a keeper in our league, dog. Like that still blows my mind.
Yeah, that's a tough scene. Tough scene. Yeah. So let's move on. I got wide receivers. I'm gonna name first one. There's an obvious one. I'm gonna pass on that one. We'll see if it gets brought up, but I'm gonna go Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is one that I was very high on going into this year just because Baker was at quarterback. And first of all, I don't think anybody saw what he did to start the year happening. He's been actually very good this year. which, you know what? Good for Baker, man. Everybody
Yeah.
deserves that kind of the second chance in a different system, and he's showing that, he's capable. He's still a good quarterback. But I really thought that Godwin was going to be somebody who ate way more than he's eating right now. Like, I thought in the intermediate to short range passes, he was going to be a nice little safety blanket for Baker, and he's only really shown that in like one game this year.
Right.
And it's been actually contract holdout Mike Evans, who's been
Balling.
absolutely eating, just balling this year so far. And Baker's actually been throwing a nice long distance throw for him throughout the whole season so far. So
Baker has
he's
a good
been
deep ball. He
does.
Good deep ball.
He does. Yeah, but so Godwin for me is one of the big, just because he's such a PPR hog as well. And so I thought that he would just have a lot of PPR value, especially in half to full PPR. And I was just thinking I was really high on him going into this year. I think if you go back to one of our first episodes for predictions, I had Godwin as somebody who could break out, and he just has not lived up to that billing.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. My pick, I mean, like you said, there is an obvious one, and I'm gonna kind of backtrack and do the same thing I did with Joe Mixon. I will put one of my own players under the fire as an honorable mention. I'll talk about it real quick. CeeDee Lamb has been very underwhelming. Not sure if it's a talent discrepancy. Maybe he's just not that guy to be a number one wide receiver, or if it's a situation type of thing with the play calling and, the state of Dallas's offense. Mike McCarthy is like dust the cobwebs off this man's playbook because it's bland and he needs something spicy. But CeeDee Lamb just been underwhelming. He's supposed to be a top 15 wide receiver, I believe, on the season. He is I think he was like number 19. 19? Okay,
He's
yeah.
number 19.
Yep, number 19. He should be a top 12, top 10 easily, but just been underwhelming. But my real spotlight that I want to talk about and who is underwhelming is Drake London. Drake London on the Atlanta Falcons. And this one, I would say it is strictly a situation, not the player themselves. But I came into the season drafting Drake London, had high hopes for him that he was going to be the number one wide receiver that they drafted him to be. The Atlanta Falcons, I think they took him, I forgot what pick, but he was a first-round wide receiver. That is a big investment for draft capital. And if you're going to draft someone in the first round, feed them the ball because that's what you drafted them and you're paying him millions of dollars to do. But Arthur Smith, he likes to hand the ball off and run. So it's been very underwhelming. He's had 2 serviceable games out of the first 5 of the season. Week 1, he laid an absolute dud. He had 1 target and had nothing out of that. He has 2 touchdowns on the day. I mean, not on the day, on the year. But one of the games he got a touchdown. Stat line was 3 for 28 and 1 touchdown. That's subpar. It's serviceable, but it's not going to win you. It's not going to win you a week. But yeah, high hopes for this man, and also their quarterback is just awful. Yeah. I mean, Desmond Ridder,
Scanny's favorite.
Desmond Ridder.
He had a good game last week, but even then, having a good game last week didn't necessarily contribute to a great stat line for Drake London. Yeah. Actually, now that I look at it, it's definitely, it was serviceable. 9 targets, 6 for 78, 6 catches for 78 yards, but no touchdown. He had about 11 points.
It's an average game.
Yeah, it's average. But
for what he should be doing.
For the talent that Drake London has, you got to show him some love, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right. That's me.
Let's hear it.
I'm going to leave T. Higgins out of this. But I'm going to highlight, this is a little bit unfair. It's very situational because 4 plays into the Jets season, everything changed. But I'm not going to only highlight Garrett Wilson. The Jets receiver room included Alan Lazard, Garrett Wilson, and both of those guys with Rodgers' injury plummet in terms of fantasy value. You're drafting Garrett Wilson probably at the 1-2 turn in a lot of leagues, top 5 receiver. And for Lazard, you can be optimistic coming into the year that he might be a fringe top 25 guy, like a couple huge weeks out of the year. Lazard is currently 56th, and Garrett Wilson is currently 29th. And
it's a tough scene. Also, can we talk about the Hard Knocks tax? Hard Knocks be blowing people up, thinking that they're going to have a crazy year.
Yeah.
People watch that and they're like, well, I'm taking DeAndre Swift this year. Last year, boom, terrible.
Right.
This year, and of course, it's a freak accident what happened to Rodgers, but Wilson, Lazard, like you said, boom, gone. You know what I mean? Like,
just no value.
Dude, it's crazy, man. You and it goes to show, like, the show, they pick the best pieces out of every single thing that happens there. You know what I mean? So
that's like
it's important to keep that in mind when you're watching. You're like, Garrett Wilson, damn, he was balling at this thing, but it's like he probably also dropped and didn't get targeted a bunch.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Hard Knocks is just like
and Wilson's a good player. It's not to say that he's not a good player, but
yeah, like Hard Knocks is just a dramatic highlight reel.
Yeah, it is.
That's all it is.
It is.
Yeah, it's tough scene in New York because high expectations for the team, for the fantasy value of the receivers, running backs, and Brees is somebody that still has some value. And Garrett Wilson, the target share is going up with Zach Wilson. Maybe their personal relationship is mending a little bit, which is resulting to more on-field success. But yeah, we'll see. In a perfect world, Kirk Cousins gets traded there, and Zach Wilson goes to Minnesota, but it's pretty unrealistic.
Side note, do y'all really see Aaron Rodgers coming back this year? Because
well, they're not going to make the playoffs, so no.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's talking like,
but I see him coming back next year, though.
Yeah, next year for sure. But I'm like, everyone's talking like, oh yeah, he just has to be serviceable until Rodgers comes back. Some of the taglines and like headers I see like on like sports talk shows, they're like, oh, can Zach Wilson hold up until Rodgers' return? I'm like, bro, he's not coming back in the same season. He had tore his Achilles, and he's 39. Dog, you think it's just gonna put a Band-Aid on that bitch and just, you're good. Mommy will kiss it. Like,
and you know what? It's not that I've been like a Rodgers stan or a big Rodgers guy, but I did like Rodgers. But after watching Hard Knocks and seeing him go to like this new place, I had a lot of anticipation to see him succeed.
Yeah.
And the way he was portrayed in Hard Knocks, I mean, of course, like you said, it's a fabricated, TV docuseries. So they made him look good. But he just seemed cool to be around. Seemed like a good locker room guy.
Yeah.
And to see him go out on that first game and not even complete a pass, that was painful for me. Like I felt for him. Yeah, like coming out, like truly it was like, man, I'm here in New York. Like, let's get this thing going, And who knows what they would have done? Maybe even not even make the playoffs, right? They could have been horrible still. But the fact that he didn't even get to complete a pass before that happened to him, I just really felt for him. I was like, damn, man, that's a tough scene for him, man. For one of the game's greats, that was really tough to see. So, but let's move on to tight ends.
The easiest category.
Yeah, we'll go to tight ends and we'll go to IDPs and we'll just kind of go from there. We can even touch kickers if we wanted to, because there's one big name that's been really disappointing this year. But tight ends, and you said it's really easy to identify. But you want to know what's so insane to me? The tight end market and the tight end group is so thin that even the people who are having horrible years are still in the top 10.
Yeah.
Like literally obvious one for me, it's like the third year in a row. Pitts. Kyle Pitts. Just horrible. They don't utilize him right. Quarterback's horrible again. So that one's just an easy one. But for me, Darren Waller. And Darren Waller is still the number 8 tight end in the league. That's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
Insane to me. He's had 2 double-digit games out of the 5.
It's fucking sad.
You good over there?
No, I'm just. I am the owner.
Whimpering on the mic.
I am the owner of Darren Waller, and I am feeling the effects of it very, very tough because it's just, man.
He's the number 8 tight end. He's averaging 7 points a game in an offense that has no wide receivers. And he's supposed to be the safety blanket for Daniel Jones, and the Giants are just a mess altogether. I mean, the minute that Saquon walks out of that team, they become the number 1 team, to get the highest pick. They're just absolutely horrid. But Waller is supposed to go there, and he had a good preseason. I mean, he was looking like the number 1 target. Looked like they were finding ways to get him open, and all of a sudden the season starts, and it's like he's nowhere to be found. I mean, he finally had a good game last one. He had 8 catches for 86 yards, I believe.
But a lot of those yards and catches came when Tyrod Taylor came into the game.
And that's the thing is if Daniel Jones is out, I think he is out for this upcoming week. That could be the only thing that's going to be good for Waller because Tyrod actually will throw the freaking ball. Daniel Jones, I think, is so overrated, bro. It's unbelievable to me that he even got that bag. And by the way, good for him. I'm happy for him. Anybody that can secure a deal like that while not technically being worth it. Yeah. Good on you. But dude, it's so obvious that he is not that guy. It's insane to me that they gave him all that money after that. But he put him in a tough situation though, because he had kind of an anomaly of a year. He played well and kind of contributed rushing wise. Right. And then they won a playoff game. So it's like, what are you going to do? Not pay the guy who just won your first playoff game? And I mean, I don't know how long. So the Giants were in a tough situation where are you going to pay him or are you just going to try and draft someone or you know what I mean? So tough situation.
Yeah.
It's backfired on them big time.
If they find themselves in position to get the number 1 pick, do you think they go Caleb Williams?
Oh, absolutely.
140 million. What about the Panthers? You just got Bryce
Yeah,
Young.
see, that's an interesting one.
Because they're 0-5.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. But I would say probably not because you can't give up on him after 1 year.
Yeah, you trade.
I mean, it's not like Bryce Young has looked horrible. I mean, he's got no weapons to throw to.
Right.
I mean, when Thielen's balling, and he's no disrespect to Thielen, but I mean, bro, when Thielen is balling like he's balling, that means he ain't got nobody else to throw to.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, but Waller been a disappointment for sure for me. Anybody else on the tight end? I mean, I mentioned Pitts and Waller.
I think this is a Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah.
Last year he was kind of a guy, and he has 2 games this year with under 1 point. He had 0.2 in week 2, and he had 0.7 in week 4. Outside of that, he had 6 and 10. But yeah, Pat was kind of a guy last year. He was a big time. He turned into a streaming option, and then he became a starter for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And now, I mean,
yeah, he's been bad.
Yeah, he's been pretty bad. That's again. We keep saying the same thing about situational things, and it applies to a lot of situations in the NFL. But Freiermuth is another victim of the Steelers' offense stealing away fantasy points.
Yeah,
I've never been high on Kenny Pickett. At no point. The only time I was high on him was the fake slide. That was nasty,
dog.
Yeah, that was cool.
Do you know why Kenny Pickett plays with gloves on?
Small hands.
His hands are too small to grip the ball.
Got that Burger King commercial hands.
Yeah, that's why he's played with gloves his entire career, like through college and everything. Same reason I think Teddy Bridgewater wore gloves. He can't grip the ball with his bare hand. So it's like, how are you playing? How are you going to be the distributor of the ball and you can barely hold it?
He was such a good backup quarterback.
Teddy Bridgewater?
Yes.
Yeah. But I digress. I would say my kind of tight end disappointment, I will say, is Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas, I mean, yeah. Okay, disclaimer. I'm pulling Logan Thomas because that kind of shows you how vastly low the tight end market is for talent. And if you take into consideration the situation that Logan Thomas is in Washington, Sam Howell had a hell of a season last year. This year, new offensive coordinator with Eric Bieniemy, the former offensive coordinator for all of the great Chiefs offenses that we've seen in the past. His creative offensive mind can come in and get things started up. I mean, you've seen Travis Kelce. I'm not saying that Logan Thomas is Travis Kelce, but if you're a tight end in that same system that Eric Bieniemy had where Travis Kelce was thriving, you would think there'd be some more production. He's averaging, I believe he's tight end 11 on the season, averaging about 8 fantasy points a game. And he only had a really significant fantasy game when they played Chicago, whose defense is also abysmal. He went nine catches for 77 yards on 11 targets and a touchdown, but he's also very touchdown dependent, a very touchdown dependent tight end. But I mean, all tight ends are at this point. But
here's one that kind of fell through the cracks really quick. Tyler Higbee. He usually finds his way to be in like a top 10 tight end, especially with Stafford. And so he's kind of had a disappointing year, especially he just signed an extension too, and they paid him decent money. And he just hasn't really done anything fantasy wise. I mean, the thing with the tight end position is that there's so much more that comes with the position than receiving numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of blocking and schemes and things that go into that position that you don't see on, statistics. So, but from a fantasy standpoint, he usually finds a way to be somewhat relevant, and he's just been completely irrelevant this year. So let's move on to IDPs. I feel like we spend way too much time on tight ends.
I want to start this one off.
Let's do it.
I want to start it off.
It's like, no, it's going to talk about.
It's the first one on my list.
I drafted Shaq Leonard very high. And in the moment, I reminisced on the days of Darius getting 180 consistently. 180 is 18 points in our league. This man was a tackle machine for years. I'm talking like this man might get 20 tackles a game 3 weeks in a row, and you wouldn't even be surprised. He was everywhere like a magnet, and now he is a magnet to the bench. He is averaging 65 points a game roughly for.
He's averaging 53 actually.
How's the
position number? He's number 71 linebacker.
God, it's so bad. He's projected for 65 is what I meant to say this upcoming week, and he probably won't even get there.
Drafted in the 4th round of our dynasty draft,
That's
by the way, in the 10th round
unreal.
cumulative.
But Shaq Leonard has really, really been a disappointment, and yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, let's just have a moment of silence here for Shaq. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, Fancy, what you got for us?
Y'all was on some Forrest Gump shit.
Honestly.
That's all I have to say about that.
Generally.
I'm trying to think if I want to go because I think I have like 2 positions.
I can go if you want me to.
Yes, please
While
do.
you figure yours out. I got one because you know what? I spent a decently high draft pick on him, and I was about as wrong as I've been on any other selection I've made in a draft before. Jeremy Chin. Talked about him before the draft, that I was high on him. I thought that he could, in the new defensive scheme they had, I thought he was going to be able to play downhill a little bit more, be in the box as that tackling safety. He has been irrelevant. Hasn't scored in double digits or in triple digits in our league for 1 week at all. And if you look at his snap percentage and how much he's been on the field, it's just been disappointing. I don't even think he's gotten close to 100% 1 week. And so he's just been an absolute letdown. I mean, I drafted him. I'll pull it up here. I drafted him in the 21st round, which in our league is the 11th round for a DB, which is decent area to be drafting DBs in our league. And I took him. I think that was the first DB that I took. And it's just been a horrible draft pick. He has done nothing all year. And so, yep, that's my low light is Jeremy Chin because I have firsthand experience of him.
He's for
really
sure
letting
going
me
for
down.
125 versus Miami this week, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
He's
probably.
gonna- yeah.
And you want to know why? Because there's 2 safeties on Carolina that are out. So he's going to have to play.
Yeah.
Literally has to. So somebody's going to pick him up and stream him now.
My IDP letdown of the season so far, and it also pains me to say this because I'm a fan of his, and I almost traded for him, but I gotta say Dre Greenlaw from the San Francisco 49ers has been less than what was expected with the type of season he had last year. This man was an absolute tackle machine last year. He was running up with tackles. The way the landscape was last season was that Dre Greenlaw was the fill the gap guy. He's the one that stops the run, fills the holes, and you funnel all the tackles that come to him. That's how defenses work. If someone does their job, they get blocked so that you let the other person that's free get the tackle. So you kind of make that sacrifice. It was Dre that got all the tackles, and Fred was the cover linebacker. He was the real sound textbook linebacker. Now, this year, in fantasy terms, the roles have kind of switched. Fred Warner is currently the number 9 overall linebacker. He's
not see
been
that
balling. No, exactly.
He had a game.
He had a
last
game.
week.
Yeah,
he had a
went
forced fumble,
crazy.
interception,
Sack.
Insane.
and a sack. So that probably helps skew his numbers a little bit. But with Dre, you were expecting him to come in hard. I mean, there has been only pause. Out of 5 games this season, there's only been 2 games where he has scored over 10 fantasy points. And for a linebacker, for a top tier linebacker who was Boss Man's keeper, you need a little more juice than that from one of your keepers. But hopefully the second half of the season or the rest, the other 3/4 of the season are going to pan out well. He has been fighting through some injuries. He's currently questionable to play on Sunday, but we'll see how it shakes out. Oh, and it's a hamstring. Oh, Dre, you better get it together. Hamstrings have been coming for people this year. There have been a lot of hamstring issues. I mean, there's always hamstring issues.
Yeah. Yeah. You have heard about him a little bit more lately as well, though.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so there goes that. Do you guys want to do some stock up, stock down, or you guys want to talk about some fantasy rule changes and things like that have been kind of...
stock up, stock down.
Let's stock up, stock down. You want to start us off?
Yeah, stock up.
Let's do it.
Give me Jordan Addison.
Yeah. For obvious reasons.
Yeah, filling in now is we assume he's the number 1 in Minnesota who passes the ball so much. They're probably going to be playing from behind quite a bit because they got a pretty tough schedule coming up. They have this week, they play. Somebody help me out here. Who do they play? Minnesota. They play Chicago. No, they don't play Chicago.
No, they do play Chicago.
They play Chicago. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
They play in Chicago.
Next week, they play the Niners on Monday Night Football.
Oh, that's going to be
it's
a
very
massacre.
difficult to run against the 49ers. So expect a lot of passing. Expect Addison to be busy. I mean, KJ Osborne.
I was going to just say,
He might
I think
get some
KJ
stock.
Osborne might even see more of an increase than Addison.
Yeah, KJ is going to be targeted quite a bit, and even Hawkinson, he might get in the mix quite a bit.
Yeah.
So all the
Shout out Gritty Gang.
Yeah, say hey, McGritty gang. Yeah,
Might get a win.
We'll see.
Might get it this week, thanks to Judy.
But yeah, Minnesota pass catchers in general stock up big time.
Yep. I would stock up for me. This is obvious, but stock up for me the rest of the year. Alvin Kamara. I did not see him coming back into the team the way he did and getting the workload that he's been receiving. It's been impressive for him to come off of the 3-game suspension like he's had, and then to walk in and immediately get 22 touches last week, by the way. 22 touches, and then 3 more receptions. 25 touches last week for Alvin Kamara. What happened?
I was laughing because I just picked up Jeremy Chin.
He just picked up Jeremy Chin.
But the reason
I literally called it. I said, somebody's going to stream him now.
the reason is because I just realized that Gobb's safety's out and he doesn't have another backup defensive back, and so I just snatched Chin off the waiver wire. But no, Kamara has been getting a usage like
and
crazy.
first of all, first week that he was back, 11 carries, 13 receptions
for 33 yards.
Yeah, insane. Dude, he's had 25 touches in back-to-back weeks. That is crazy. So stock up on Alvin Kamara. There was a lot of he went like fluctuating in redrafts, but I think in that like 6th to 7th round was really good value if you got him there. And for him to come back, especially in full PPR, which by the way, that's something we got to discuss later, or we will touch on later. But yeah, for him, stock up on Kamara. What you got for us, Fancy?
This man took a page out of last week. He said, I'll make sure that I pick up every safety he can.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
My bench can have 9 safeties.
For a little bit of context here, Fancy was playing Scanny last week. He's pissed right now. You guys can't see him right now, but he's seething.
No, I'm actually happy he did that because AJ would have led me on. He would have led me because Rudy Ford had a good game. Is that his name?
Rudy Ford did have a good game.
He had a great game.
Yeah.
And so even with AJ's touchdown, I would have still lost.
Yeah,
I would
fair.
have been led astray.
Oh,
But so it was going into Monday night, and Fancy was up on Scanny, and he had Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones was basically ruled doubtful early on Monday morning.
Like, bro, he didn't even have a questionable tag on Thursday, and all of a sudden Friday he's questionable, and then Saturday.
And Scanny woke up late that day, or didn't check fantasy, and all of a sudden when he went, every single person that you would have wanted to add in replacement of him was picked up by like 3 teams.
I was like,
including
Renfro?
me.
Like Renfro was taken?
Renfro, yeah, Michael Mayer, Jace Ferguson.
I gotta go flex
Luke
tight end.
Musgrave.
Luke Musgrave, every single person was gone.
Hey, Patrick Taylor, baby.
Patrick Taylor, he had to start Patrick Taylor,
But also,
who scored like 10
In
points.
29 and a half, he had a solo tackle.
for context, I also picked up AJ Dillon the Sunday morning though. So I had him.
That was the main one.
I
Did you
had
pick him up,
early.
or did y'all tell that fool to pick him
No,
up? You guys seem like you were plotting when we were in the car.
No, I legitimately picked him up, and I was just telling Fleet, I'm like, "Hey, bro, look, Aaron Jones is questionable. Look who I just picked up."
Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah,
wow,
bro.
it's just so convenient that I have a couple bench
Dylan,
spots open.
Dylan has been so bad this year.
For those who don't know, background of our league, Scanny and Fleet is like huge rivalry. Even though I own you the last few years,
not this year.
Yeah, okay.
Beat you by 1,000.
Right when he saw that, I looked at him. Well, right when you noticed, I picked him up. I'm like, "Hey, it's chess, not checkers."
Yeah, I do remember that. No, that was crazy. So,
But we digress.
Yeah.
My stock up player is actually going to be a quarterback. I'm going to say stock up on Matthew Stafford. Now that we see the Rams offense kind of coming into full swing, the return of Cooper Kupp, the emergence of Puka Nacua, and a nice third option in Tutu Atwell and the opportunities that he's presented, I think it's safe to say the Rams have come out a lot stronger than we were anticipating. And I mean, Matt Stafford, he can still sling the rock. He can still sling that thing with some heat. Pause.
really, you're getting close here, Will.
Sling
You're
that
getting
thing.
close.
He can sling that thing. But no, Matthew Stafford, he's still a talented quarterback. Still has a lot of
You
weapons.
gotta love Crabtree's ability to suck in these balls. You see that announcing clip?
No, that was
for Iron Eagle. Yeah.
What's more? what's gonna happen more? Will's sus comments or the I digress count?
The I digress count.
Or immaculate.
Yeah.
That's the three-headed monster.
I've
of
actually been
fancy
good with
sons.
immaculate. I haven't said it much this episode. I've only maybe said it twice.
I got to stock up for us on hanging on one thing. If Judy gets moved, stock up on Cortland Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
He's not gonna be a league winner, but he's gonna be a consistent flex, somebody that can get you like 10 to 15 points every single week. I think, because just purely off the fact that they have no one else to throw to, and they suck, so they're gonna be down a lot of games, and they're gonna have to be throwing. So I would say stock up on Sutton, and he's not had a great year, but he's averaging close to 10 points a game in standard leagues. So I could see a nice little uptick coming, especially if Judy's moved.
That was a great way to digress without saying I digress.
Who?
You.
Stock down for the same team. All Bronco running backs.
All Broncos are
They can't.
Yeah.
They have three problems. They can't stay healthy. They can't hold the football, and they play for the Broncos. Those are three big problems.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
I
an
totally
offensive.
agree.
Yeah. That team. I think that team is the most down bad of all the teams.
I'm gonna go IDP on the next one. Stock up on Azeez Al-Shaair. Started the year a little bit slow. He's been on fire the last few weeks. He's got 9 tackles and a sack, 9 tackles and 15 tackles last week against Indianapolis. He's been an absolute monster. I think he's finally starting to settle into his new role as leader of that defense in Tennessee. And I think he's actually shown what he's capable of now. He's kind of getting east to west on the plays and making plays in the run game. So Azeez Al-Shaair, stock up on him. Making 47 tackles through 5 weeks right now in a sack.
Solid.
It's a good year for a debut and a full-time role.
Tennessee, right?
Tennessee.
Yep.
Are we still doing stock up or stock down?
You just do whatever one. We're just kind of rolling with it.
I'm going to say, you may not like this. I'm going to say stock down on Chris Olave. Stock down on Chris Olave.
Okay. Let's hear why.
The talent is there, but like I've said many times before, New Orleans is getting a good taste of the quarterback they paid for. He came out and, he had a good solid 3 weeks, but that was also when Derek Carr was healthy. Derek Carr trying to play through this shoulder injury, it's not pretty. Chris Olave had about, here's his first 3 weeks, 15, 11, 14. Serviceable numbers, great. All those weeks, he had no touchdowns, which is great for the yardage, of course, but that's if your quarterback can air it out. And as we've seen with Alvin Kamara's comeback or his return, Man's had 13 receptions on I don't know on how many attempts or how many targets, but that kind of shows that Derek Carr can't air it out right now. He can't go vertical up the field, so he's doing checkdowns on checkdowns on checkdowns. And Chris Olave, his biggest strength is stretching the field. So if you have a quarterback that can't stretch the field like that and throw it deep, then you're going to be very limited in your offense. So we'll see, though. We'll see. But
here's my counter.
This is, yeah, okay.
I have a counter. Well, I have something to add to it before you counter. Let me say this really quick. I would say the biggest reason why I'd be stocked down on Chris Olave is because of Alvin Kamara. I think that he's an absolute target hog, and he's somebody that he needs to be fed. You know what I mean? He's a big integral part of that offense. So I would say the reason why I have Olave going down is not only because of Carr's health and his ability to be able to throw the ball down the field, but also because of Kamara's return. Scanny.
Rebuttal. Targets. Before the Carr injury, 10, 11, 11. After the Carr injury, 6 and 5. Now, not only that, we see he's getting targets with and without the health of Derek Carr. But the next 5 games, Houston, Jacksonville, Colts, Chicago Bears, Vikings. Those are all at least semi-favorable matchups. Minnesota and Chicago, forget about it. That's all day. Indy, Jacksonville, Houston, all mid-tier defenses. He's got an opportunity. And all these teams can score, by the way. Minnesota, Chicago, Indy, Jacksonville. Houston has proven it. It's going to be shootouts. It's not going to be 34-0 like New England. And touchdowns are volatile, man. No, he's averaging 140 the first 3 weeks of no touchdowns.
I also feel like you want to manifest that because he's on your team.
Oh, no, I'm absolutely defending his name.
But respect, you make some good
I really
points.
think he and Jalen Waddle are about to boom, especially Waddle.
Waddle's due for
A-Chain's
one. It's actually surprising to me that he's been so quiet.
with A-Chain going down and with Miami. I think Waddle's gonna blow up one of these days. I would Gob hit me about Waddle recently. It would be fitting if I get a 300-point game from Waddle on Sunday versus Carolina. That's a terrible defense.
All right, hold on. Are we feeling good with the stock up, stock down?
Yeah,
I think we covered the whole
we're
stock
chilling.
market right here. I want to pivot to something that I've been really sitting on for a couple weeks now, and I feel really passionate about this type of topic. It's changes that are happening in the fantasy football landscape that I completely despise, and I want to name a couple, and we'll talk about them. First one for me is the FAAB. It's a fantasy allocated acquired budget or something like that. It's this idea that you get a budget for your waiver claims. And so, go ahead.
It's the free agent acquisition budget.
Nowhere close, but somewhat similar. You get what I mean.
Football Association.
Yeah,
there's
Football
another
Association of
budget.
American Basketball.
There's also another name. It's a free agent auction bidding. So not
whatever. FAAB. And it's this idea that no matter where you are in terms of the standings and records, you allocate a budget percentage to a player that you want to pick up. This is why it's one of the stupidest things that I've heard in fantasy football. It takes away the parity that waiver wire claims bring. If you're a team that's struggling the most, let's say you're 1-4 up to this point, and you're the worst team in the league, and you need someone like, who's a hot pickup this week? DeMercado, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you needed to pick him up. You now are then forced to use the majority of your budget as the lowest team in the league, who is supposed to be put at an advantage to be able to improve your team and increase the parity of the whole league itself, of the fantasy league. You now have to use the majority of your budget to get a player like DeMercado, because everyone else can put 100% of their budget because they know if he doesn't put 100%, I have a chance to get him. So all it does is put the worst team in the league at a disadvantage when the waiver claims are literally designed in terms of the reverse standings. If you have the worst record, you get the top priority. It puts them at a disadvantage for what? Because we want to be able to have money, because we want to have budget, we want to be able to buy and auction off players. It seems so pointless, and just it's like people are getting bored. Like, we're adding stuff just to add stuff now. So it just seems so backwards to me that you would have something like that puts the worst teams at a disadvantage. It's like teams that are tanking in the NBA getting the worst odds in the NBA lottery.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the defending champion gets equal odds to the worst team. And you're like, what is the point of this? So that is something I've been seeing a ton on my social media. And
It's been blowing up a lot.
It's been blowing up. And you know what? People are they just like to have money. They just like to spend. They just like to have currency that isn't real. They just like to buy people, own things. It's just like rooted in this whole like American mindset of I want money. Oh, I have a budget. I can spend it on. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And it's so ass backwards of what the waiver process is supposed to do.
No, I feel that. I feel like it just adds an unnecessary level of complexity to fantasy football, because fantasy football is already a complex. If it took me some seasons, y'all know, because this man Scan Man has scammed me many times because I did not know a lot about fantasy football. This man finessed me in like my second year in the league to trade him AJ Green for CJ Anderson. What? Awful.
That was a great trade.
Yeah, you fleeced me for real. But regardless, it just adds another layer of complexity to consider your budget and how you should allocate that. And then on top of that, like, dude, the waiver system is already complex. The processes and how much like research and stuff you have to do. Now you need extra consideration, or you need extra input to tell you how much of your fab to allocate and everything. And it just makes it a lot.
Yeah, like, is your league that boring that you need to add that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, to me, seems so unnecessary, man. It's just so, and like I said, it beyond the fact that I just think it's stupid. It's backwards. It defeats the purpose of everything that the waiver process is supposed to bring. It's supposed to bring parity to your fantasy league, where the worst teams now can gain people who will give them a better chance to compete.
Right.
All it does is prevent that. So it's strange, man. But here's another one, because I've got a whole list of them here, boys.
I love it.
Drop them in.
I'm going crazy because I'm a commissioner, so this stuff really resonates with me. Bonuses in fantasy. Bonuses need to be eradicated. Every league in the world.
Yeah,
If you give out bonuses for a 40-plus yard touchdown grab, you are disgusting. You are disgusting. And especially the ones that can stack. If you have a player that gets a 50-yard touchdown and he gets the bonuses for the 30-plus yard touchdown, the 40-yard touchdown,
and the 100
and
yard
the
receiving
50-yard
game.
and 100-yard receiving game and anything like that, it is so pointless because it already reflects in the points that you get for the play.
Right.
You already get 50 yards and the touchdown for the play. Why would you get bonus points just because it was a big play? It means nothing.
It's like Steph hitting a 3, and then they give him a 2 also because he hit it from that range.
Right, exactly.
It's a 5-point shot.
Exactly, it's a 5-point shot. Exactly. It makes no sense, and all it is you just, if you want higher scoring things, change the scoring settings.
Right.
To reflect higher scores, but still keep the parity of the scoring. But to give somebody a 1.5 or 2 points because they caught a 50-yard touchdown is so pointless to me. It's not like it's worth more points in the football game because you scored a 50-yard touchdown. It's still worth 6.
Yeah.
I would present this point to you. Would you say that's comparable to how we changed our scoring scale for kickers? How we've incorporated the yardage
No,
into
Not
that?
at all.
Not at all.
No? Okay.
No, it literally reflects the exact yardage that you kicked a field goal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
You
better.
kick a 48
So
yarder,
before
you
it was
48
like
points.
if you kicked a
Oh,
30
okay.
if a 32-yard, you'd only get 30 points. Now we've changed it, and ESPN has allowed us to give it, if it's a 32-yard field goal, you get 32 points.
Right.
So that's like 1-to-1 in terms of
So
for
is
me.
it so it's yardage plus the points that you get for the field goal itself?
No,
No,
it's
just the
just
exact
the
number of
yardage.
yards.
Oh,
It's
it's just the
So if
yardage.
somebody kicks a 22-yard field goal, you don't get points on top of that. You just get 22.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was under the impression that you get like the 10 or 20 points that you get
No,
for the
no.
kick and then the yardage on top. So I was like, isn't that a bonus within itself? But that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
And here's one of the bonuses that's really pissed me off this year because it's in one of my work leagues, and I'm not the commissioner in that, so I will not take credit for this. Bonuses for a first down.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop it.
Disgusting.
Why?
Disgusting. It's literally, you should be removed as commissioner if you do that.
You're
I
supposed
do
to
not-
get first downs. What are you getting rewarded for?
But also, dude, somebody could have just caught a pass for 9 yards. That play was way more than that 1 yard, than that 2-yard run that Pacheco just got the first down on. Now he's going to get a point because he got a first down on 2nd and 1.
right.
It makes absolutely no sense. All it is just like, it's just blind rewarding. Oh, he had a first down. Now that's more of a point.
Give me David Montgomery in that league right now.
Oh,
Give
dude.
me Monty.
Exactly.
Give
No,
me-
you know what? Give me
me
Jalen
McCaffrey.
Hurts.
Yeah.
Give me Jalen Hurts every single time
On the
they do
tush
that
push.
sneak. Absolutely.
tush
They
On the
do it
tush
3 times a
push.
game. You'd get 3 more
and
points.
a touchdown is technically a first down. So
Yeah.
you would then get another point if you
Yeah, on top of it. Yeah,
That's
it's so
crazy.
stupid. Oh
I
my
actually
God,
didn't even
it's
know
so
that was a
bad.
thing. That's kind of
It's so
annoying.
bad.
Yeah.
It's so
It's a
bad.
big thing in betting nowadays. People bet on like McCaffrey over under 5.5 first downs. Or
Right.
something like that. It's
Yeah.
a big.
Which, from a betting standpoint, that's a completely different landscape, though.
Yeah.
But
No,
on
but in
fantasy,
fantasy,
if you're
yeah.
just gonna, my point is like, you could have like 2nd and 16, right? Somebody makes like Jamar Chase gets like a 15-yard catch. It's 3rd and 1 now, right?
Right.
They just got themselves out of a hole, and Chase is the reason. Chase and Burrow's the reason. Mixon goes and gets a 2-yard rush when it was 2nd and 16. Now it's 3rd and 1. He gets an extra point because he had a 2-yard rush,
Right.
and it just so happened to cross the first down line. Like, you got to be kidding me. So that's another one that's absolutely terrible.
What do you guys think about? I'm happy we're not this. What do you guys think about 2 quarterback leagues? The
Horrible.
super flex leagues.
Those are stupid. I don't understand
Here's
why.
my only thing, and I have a league that's 2 quarterback, and I hate it. If you have anything that's 8 teams and above, I think that it's so stupid and it's pointless. But if you have anything that's 6 or 4, it's almost like there's so many good players, you might as well just roster 2 of them at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So I would only say if you're at like 4, because I have a 4-team league, and like, which is just ridiculous. We just have
4 teams.
Yeah, we have 4-team league. So I have my work league. It's a 16-team league, and there's like me and like 3 other people that absolutely hate it. So we made our own league on ESPN. We're like, we're just gonna have like our own separate work league. So we have this 4-team league, and we do dual quarterback because that's only 4 quarterbacks. It's like it would be like Mahomes, Allen, Tua, and Hurts,
Yeah.
and then like Herbert and like
yeah.
Lamar would be like free agents.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, at that point, it makes sense. But in a standard 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, absolutely. Throw it out the window. That's
Right.
ridiculous. You only start 1 quarterback in a football game. Why would you start 2 in a fantasy lineup?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be as close as you can to being an actual team.
Right.
So, yeah, get rid of the 2 quarterback. That's a good one. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no.
Here's one that is super popular, and I just do not understand it. Full point PPR. It rubs me the wrong way, man. I just cannot get behind the idea of rewarding someone for a catch just because they made a catch for that many points.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the sweet spot is a quarter to a half. I think half point PPR is the money. I think that's the money range because it just gives you enough because he made a catch, but it's not like a ridiculous amount of awards just because you just made a catch. It could be one catch for 1 yard, which you're going to get 1.1 points because he made a catch for 1 yard. Like, that's ridiculous, man.
In my other league, I'm the commissioner in my other league, and I presented it to them. I'm like, hey, yo, I'm like, went in the chat. I'm like, hey, I'm going to make this a half point PPR, so the projections might change. So, like, just be on the lookout for it. And I did it, and it changed a lot of people's projections by, like, a significant amount of points because of how it was set up before. But that's just a scoring discrepancy that you'll see. But then everyone comes into the chat and they're like, hey, yo, no, my projections went down. I don't like this. I'm like, dog. Whether it's regardless of what the point is, you're still gonna get the points for it.
Right.
It's like say like you make a shot for $1, right? You shoot a basketball for $1 and you make it, you get $1. Whether you change that to $1 or $2, you're still getting paid, regardless the amount.
Yeah, but it's just a sensible change though. Like full point PPR. I have a league that's literally full point PPR, and I have Keenan Allen, Tyreek, and Devontae in it. Do you know how many points I get on receptions? Just receptions, bro.
Freaking 30 points a week.
Dude, it's ridiculous how many points I get. And I sit there and I'm like, yeah, like I'm happy I won, but I'm like, dude, I'm getting way too many points for receptions right now.
At that point, if they want to keep it, you play the system and get your wins.
I did. Like that they changed it this year. It was half point. They changed it to full point. It changed my whole draft strategy.
Right. Yeah.
All I did was draft receivers and running back second catch.
Mm-hmm.
If it's full point PPR, also that devalues the running back position.
Yeah.
Literally. What are you going to draft Derrick Henry for in a full point PPR league?
Exactly.
Not going to do shit for you unless he gets goal line carries and he has a big long run. Like
He's actually
literally
been pretty decent at receptions this season.
Who, Henry?
Yeah, receiving yards. You know what's the crazy side about him is in his career, he's like 7 of 9 actually passing for like 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, he does.
And he
should have had one last week.
Yeah, he hit D-Hop. It should have been a touchdown too. But yeah, so multifaceted.
Yeah. Money area, half point PPR.
Yeah.
Half point PPR is the move. Yeah. Last one, because I sound like just a complaining old man here. Get off my lawn type shit. But yeah, I am. Last one. I think it's time for fantasy football leagues to start phasing out the defensive special teams unit. It's time for everyone to grow up, start learning about the actual game of football on both sides of the ball, incorporate some IDPs into your league, and get rid of the defensive special teams unit. This is the only thing I'll say about it really quick. Every league scores it different. That tells you everything you need to know. Yeah. Every league scores it differently, bro. Whether it's a range, whether or not you get more points per sack, whether or not you get more points for interceptions, everything is scored variably different between league to league. And for me, that's the biggest sign of being an inconsistent scoring position. Get rid of it, man. It doesn't even fully encapsulate what that defensive unit did. And it could all be one player's doing. Like we were just talking about, Khalil Mack had 6 sacks. The whole defensive unit gets
points in our league.
Gets 120 points because of Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's time to start phasing out the defensive unit and just move to IDPs. Time to grow up.
Even if it's like one DN, one linebacker, one DB.
Yeah, something that represents more of an individual player.
Right. Also, the special teams aspect of it is kind of annoying too.
It's so random.
It's so random. Special teams, like, I don't know. If you're listening to this, you should know what special teams dictates. Special teams dictates field placement, like field position. That is what it dictates. So it's like, and you don't even get any significant points from anything if you get like a return for certain yardage, nothing. You only get it if you get a fluke play that's like a fluke punt return or a fluke kickoff return. Mm-hmm. And it's like, those happen so sparingly to where like, when you do start to account for it, it's so out of the left field, like you can't even anticipate it. Like, for example, week 1, when the Jets played the Bills, it was a walk-off punt return, dog. And imagine if you had like imagine if you were playing someone that had the Jets defensive special teams unit and the game ends on that note and you lose because of that specific play, just because of a fluke punt return, I would be pissed.
Yeah.
It's a great way for the game to end. And it's great when you see that in a game when you're good in all three phases of the game.
Though, it's just so inconvenient.
So inconvenient.
Hey, when did fair catching become legal on a kickoff? I didn't know.
Yeah,
you could do that.
they.
I hate that. That sucks.
Yeah.
But you know, it's probably one of the more. The reason they did it's safety.
Yeah, safety.
It's all rooted in safety. Going back really quick, last point on the defensive thing. If you have an offensive unit that's horrible, let's say you get pinned back, right? You kick from your own end zone. Your defense is now at a complete disadvantage because the offense couldn't do anything. And now they get the ball at the 50-yard line. Now you got a short field. Or if you have a turnover, somebody throws fumbles on the 1-yard line or whatever, on the 5-yard line. Right. They got 5 yards to score. Now your defense has to go out there and take the blame for that. Like, it's just so inconsistent. So, like I said, time to grow up. Incorporate the IDPs. And let's actually be connoisseurs of the game, people.
Yeah, but that's also a good point because that format, like our format, is for connoisseurs of the game. And there's tons of people out there that just do fantasy football just to shoot the shit. Like they just do it to do it. And it's like some people don't have, and this is gonna sound messed up. Some people don't have the mental capacity to go into the game that deep, to understand it that deep. Dog,
and I don't like those people.
Yeah,
I don't like them.
Some people that casually play fantasy football are still asking us, like, how do you get a first down? Some of the people that do fantasy football are still in that mode of like, oh my gosh, he tackled him in the backfield. What does that mean? like, girls, a tackle for loss. Like, get to it. Like, catch up.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
But
if she plays in a league with defensive special teams unit, she ain't the one, bro.
She ain't the one. If she got IDPs, man, you better marry that woman.
Marry that woman.
Marry her right now.
Name drops Zaire Franklin. If you know who he is, oh my god.
Yeah. Well, let me take a chill pill. Let me stop raging on these topics. But you got something to say? Or are you good? Yeah. Well, let's close this one out. Well, I appreciate you guys listening. It's another episode of Backyard Dynasty. We covered a lot of things here. This is the second episode. The first one will be coming out a few days or probably tomorrow, something like that. So stay tuned with us. Stay rocking with us. We're going to keep it going consistent the rest of the year. For Fleet,
Fancy,
Scanny.
This is another episode of Backyard Dynasty. We appreciate you guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. We're going to start posting a lot more on our socials as well. So give us some love. We love you guys for listening. And peace.
Show some love.
See ya.
Yay.